everybody, and welcome to another Agile IT Tech Talk. Happy New Year. This is our first Tech Talk of the year. 2020 proves to be a very interesting year. Lots of things going on around cybersecurity, new developments. About 2 hours ago, Microsoft announced that the Fluid framework is finally in public preview and is starting to roll out to those early adopters that have rapid cycle insider updates enabled. I'm waiting to get my access to it so I can start playing with it. If you missed that back in May when Satya Nadella announced it, the Fluid framework is a way to work collaboratively on interactive experiences. That's how they describe it. But what it seems to enable is the ability for people to work in rich data that then can be embedded into other documents. If you've ever had a problem where you store canonical data in one document, for example, our line items for our statements of work all live in a SharePoint site. And if we edit them in the SharePoint site, well, then we have to go back and we have to edit them within the Word documents on statements of work that haven't gone out yet. And it becomes kind of problematic to manage all that data. With Fluid Framework, you're able to edit it in one place and it edits it across your entire data estate. And there are a lot of other really cool features around it. I'm excited about this coming out in public preview so I can play with it and talk a little bit more authoritatively about it. But to get back to the Tech Talk here, it's the first Tech Talk of 2020, and a lot of what we did last year, a lot of what we did in 2018 was really talking about the emerging cybersecurity capabilities within Microsoft's 365. If you follow Gartner, if you follow any of the big consulting houses, you know that Microsoft is now considered one of the best cybersecurity platforms out there. And in a lot of the Tech Talks, we get really deep into what a specific function is. So you see how Cloud App Security can stop shadow IT. You see how Azure Information Protection can stop data exfiltration or the leaking of personally identifiable information. How Compliance Manager fits in with managing HIPAA or managing NIST 171. What we don't ever do is to actually look at everything as a whole. And Microsoft has got the just craziest security reference architecture. We have this as a poster in a number of places around our office, and it's daunting to try to figure out where do you read it, how does this all lay out. What I want to do today is I want to build this out for you so you can see the way all of these moving pieces, all of these different functionalities can protect you against phishing, against attacks like Petya, like any other ransomware. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at what a standard enterprise data estate and infrastructure looks like, and then we're going to layer the solutions on top of them. So we start out, most enterprise organizations have Windows, Linux servers, nowadays usually some applications containers that need to be protected. And they also have an established core set of security capabilities at the edge and the egress points to protect extranet and intranet resources. It's the old school style of perimeter security. If you've heard me talk about zero trust, this is the opposite. This is legacy security, where you build a perimeter around the infrastructure and just don't let things go out. But nowadays, we also find that enterprises have a range of client devices, and that ranges from corporate issued laptops, bring your own devices, cell phones, tablets. The data is really moving everywhere. Most enterprises also have an established security capability that includes vulnerability management, incident management, and that's typically provided by an on-premise security information event management, SIEM system, or a managed security services provider like Agile IT. So many have deployed endpoint data loss protection, DLP capabilities to help with information needs. Larger organizations have Active Directory as a primary enterprise directory. Frequently, it's part of an identity system that includes other capabilities for identity lifecycle management, credential vaulting, and other needs. Some enterprises include, well, actually almost every enterprise today includes software as a service, Office 365, Salesforce, HubSpot, and lots of other popular services. Some of these are sanctioned and configured by corporate IT, But then there's shadow IT, which are adopted by business units and individual users without the knowledge or endorsement of corporate IT. Being in the marketing department, I'll say that traditionally it usually gets blamed on us or HR, but it's not always the case. So many organizations also operate traditional industrial control systems. So I know that we've got a few people on the call that are in manufacturing. These include your supervisory control and data acquisition, your SCADA. Many are also operating or planning to adopt Internet of Things technologies for both internal systems and customer product offerings. And these can be things that monitor your production lines, do things like predictive maintenance, digital twins. So the scope of enterprise infrastructure has grown into a hybrid state that incorporates infrastructure as a service, platform as a service from Microsoft Azure, as well as other IaaS providers. To pause for a moment, this leaves most enterprises with a hybrid of everything estate to manage and secure, which is quite challenging given the steadily increasing volume and sophistication of cybersecurity threat actors. Everything going on in the news. We've recently had a small engagement with Iran. Iran is known to be one of the more active and larger APTs. There has been guidance that has come down from the Department of Homeland Security about protecting your data estates, protecting your infrastructure, being a little bit more proactive than usual. When President Obama announced the sanctions on Iran, they started harassing Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. So it's no longer a state or no longer an environment where nation states are going after nation states. Nation states, advanced persistent threats are going after commercial environments in order to cause damage to economies. So having the complexity of this hybrid of everything combined with the advancing state and how it's no longer a 400-pound kid in his bedroom that are out there trying to hack. So we've got some really sophisticated threats out there. So the foundation of Microsoft's cloud services and products starts with investments in security and compliance, many of which have been made available to customers in some form. So there's Trust Center. It's a comprehensive set of compliance offerings, and it transparently provides information on how Microsoft meets or exceeds those standards within Trust Center. Compliance Manager, I've done a number of tech talks playing around in Compliance Manager. It's one of my favorite things because I'm kind of a compliance nerd. Microsoft built a capability to help you manage your compliance requirements based heavily on what Microsoft learned while managing their own compliance, such as extensive mapping of controls across their standards. So this, and I don't know that we have anybody in GCC High on the call right now. Compliance Manager is not available in GCC High. However, Compliance Manager is almost essential to planning to move into GCC High, which is the government version of Office 365, in case you were unaware. Compliance Manager actually looks at the configuration within your system and gives you managed advice on how to meet compliance requirements. But it also goes beyond IT. If, for example, some security requirements say that you have to have bulletproof doorknobs. I'm not kidding. So if that is in the compliance structure that you're trying to meet, you have that control and you can store that documentation in there. If you look at our physical security in Azure blog that we did a while back, we've got a video that goes inside one of Microsoft's government data centers. It's really cool to watch. But by working through their own compliance requirements, Microsoft built these capabilities and then again turned it into their own product. It's that old statement of eating your own dog food. Then there's the security development lifecycle. Microsoft published documentation from their security development lifecycle. They publish this openly to help you with securing your applications. This recently evolved into Secure DevOps, or the Secure DevOps Toolkit for Azure. DevSecOps is kind of another industry name for it. And that is at azsk.azurewebsites.net if you want to take a look at that. And then finally, one of our favorite toys here is the intelligent security graph. Through the course of supporting, operating, and securing Azure, Office 365, Windows PCs, Microsoft has accumulated this massive set of first-party threat intelligence. They process 65 trillion signals a day that they use to protect their cloud services, IT environments, and those of us, their customers. Many of the products in this architecture have integrated intelligence and analytics from the security graph that immediately feed in directly into threat detection and alert enrichment capabilities. And one of the things we're going to touch on here in a bit that I think really ties that all together is Azure Sentinel, which is went public, I believe, about 5 months ago. So let's move on. So familiar security capabilities from popular vendors are available in the Azure Marketplace to enable customers to extend on-premise controls to the cloud. Additionally, Microsoft has Azure Firewall, a native firewall as a service capability in Azure that includes several advanced technologies and greatly simplifies firewall deployment and management. Microsoft has invested into Azure Security Center, which enables customers to protect servers and workloads, and that's on-prem, detect and correct common misconfiguration issues, such as VMs that are exposed directly to the internet, missing web application firewalls for web applications, out-of-date patches, anti-malware signatures that aren't updated, lots of other capabilities in there. And it leverages cutting-edge capabilities in Azure like machine learning to suggest new firewall rules and application whitelists to allow and block which files can run on what servers. There's a lot of investment that has been happening in other Azure security capabilities, such as distributed denial of service mitigations. We have helped customers who have been in the middle of DDoS attacks and we're able to get that enabled. Key management, ransomware resistant backup archives, confidential computing capabilities to protect data while it's being processed. They've also focused heavily on device security. So System Center, Configuration Manager, SCCM, and Intune have been recently combined. So this is a little bit out of date. It's now known as Microsoft Endpoint Manager. But what this does is it allows cross-platform security and management across Windows, Linux, Mac, iOS, Android. So pretty much any sort of device you're going to be running is defended there. And if you're thinking, what about IoT? We'll get there. Then there's Windows 10 Enterprise Security. It's an extensive set of platform capabilities to protect against these ever-evolving attacks that I was talking about earlier. And then Windows Defender ATP, pardon me, is Advanced Endpoint Detection and Response, EDR, to rapidly detect and recover from attacks, as well as management, monitoring, and security planning capabilities to keep devices healthy and secure. We had a great tech talk last year with Andrea Fisher going through this, and a lot of people hear Windows Defender, they're used to Windows Home, and oh, it's that antivirus thing. No, this is really your endpoint management, but its agent feeds up into all of the other security capabilities, allowing you to track threats and attacks and breaches from the moment a person clicks on a link, and all of your computers are now reporting back these signals. And with the machine learning that was mentioned earlier, it actually can stop attacks as they're occurring. Don't rely on it. Stay ahead. Make sure you've got things configured beforehand. So, pardon me. So, based on lessons learned through credential theft and similar attacks, Microsoft has also invested in securing privilege access, including privilege access management, advanced credential, identity attack detection, and privileged access workstation architectures, the PAW. Microsoft's PAW investments include publishing guidance, so they have published detailed installation instructions for customers to build their own PAWs, and then platform security, which protects the IT environment and cloud services with a full admin workstation program. And internally, that's called the Secure Access Workstation, or SAWS. Because of how critical identity is to security, and if you've been on the phone with me, you know, or you've heard me talk about zero trust, it's no longer that perimeter. It's focusing on identity, data, and devices, no matter where they are. But because of how critical identity is to security, Microsoft has invested heavily in security capabilities to protect and manage both cloud and on-premise identities, spanning multi-factor authentication, biometrics with Windows Hello, hardware protection of credentials with TPM and virtualization-based security, and applying threat intelligence and machine learning to authentication attempts and more. And that's intelligent conditional access. Identity is also critical for protecting data and operational availability, as it's frequently the only control type available across modern IoT, mobile, etc. devices, and cloud services. Organizations need to focus on building an identity security perimeter to consolidate management of authentication and access controls, to enforce consistency. Microsoft has invested into conditional access to enable simple and powerful visibility and policy control of this new perimeter. This is a tech talk that I want to do that's probably going to be about 3 hours long when you start to really look at how powerful conditional access can be, and how, when combined with MFA, it provides not only dual layer security, it also provides reliability that if anything should happen in the event of a major disaster where cell service is knocked out and you can't get MFA, if you're in your office, you shouldn't need MFA. You should be able to get in, turn off MFA for the organization or use a break glass account. But conditional access combined with MFA, the capabilities and the threat signals that it looks at is really fascinating. So Microsoft invested across the tools to enable integration with existing security information and event management solutions. And so there's that Security Graph API third-party integration. So no matter what you're using, if you have some developers, and we have some developers, and I'm not going to say that we're really the best with Intelligent Security Graph, but we know API calls that nobody else does. Alex, if you've watched any of our tech talks around DevOps, Alex has really taken apart the Intelligent Security Graph, taken it upon himself to fully understand all of those capabilities. And that's one of the reasons why our security offerings now are very much set around baselines and protecting those baselines so they can't be changed. And so I built out two here. So Microsoft built ATP technology, that's Advanced Threat Protection, to provide the deep context on the technical elements of your modern estate. So endpoint, identity, email, to rapidly detect and remediate threats across them. If you are a DoD contractor in GCC High, this is an existential event. If you don't know you're being breached, you have to report it within 72 hours. So not only does it give you an alert, it offers professional services to help you investigate incidents in your environment as well as to hunt for potential existing threats. So you may have a hacker in there living off the land, waiting for a time to strike. Kick them out, you'll see them. This enables you to transform your security operations center using this massive set of not only your threat intelligence, but all of Microsoft's threat intelligence that's available through the Intelligent Security Graph, and integrate these with your existing capabilities using that Graph Security API. Like I said, last year, Microsoft put out Azure Sentinel. Sentinel is a cloud-native SIEM with SOAR capability. It's built into Azure, and it helps you with a breadth of visibility to collect security data from across your enterprise and state, including Microsoft, AWS, other clouds, on-premise assets. It can pull your firewall logs, and then it uses machine learning to reduce alert fatigue. So if you've ever worked in a situation where you're getting alerts of people coming into your environment, it can recognize those repeated dumb alerts that are just, okay, I see this every day. Yes, somebody mistyped their password. Yes, somebody mistyped their password. Oh, somebody mistyped their password 7 times in 30 seconds. That's a little bit fast. Let's go ahead and fire that alert. So in Azure Sentinel, during private preview, they saw alert reduction by up to 90%. In addition to using machine learning, it also uses native cloud capabilities like automation to simplify your data collection, your CM maintenance, and incident investigation or remediation. So Microsoft has built several Office 365 security capabilities to enhance your security planning. So Secure Score, we're right in the middle of it. I've got 2 more sessions that I'm going to do on creating that perfect secure score. The final session is actually going to go into why a perfect secure score should be impossible, and how to mitigate around that. It also adds additional explicit approval steps before Microsoft support can access your data for support issues. That's customer lockbox, and data protection technologies are built into the platform. There we go. Sorry, it's not totally building out as quickly as I thought. Okay, so data loss protection. Okay, so Azure Information Protection, there we go, protects information at the file itself. So the encryption and policy control can follow files wherever they go. Cloud, devices, USB drives, and we've done a number of demos about this, but what it allows you to do is you can set a policy on a file, and when that file goes somewhere and it's sitting on maybe a client's computer, maybe it's on a hacker's computer, maybe it's on a former employee's computer, you revoke access, and depending on the policies that are enabled, when somebody attempts to open it, they have to sign into Active Directory to verify their identity in order for that file to become unencrypted and able to be opened. It allows you to control information anywhere in the world, even if it's outside of that perimeter. Cloud App Security is a Microsoft Cloud Application Security broker. Pardon me. And it provides really a ton of security capabilities for software as a service, including shadow IT risk management, policy monitoring and enforcement, information protection, and incident detection, response, and recovery. Now, there was a little bit of confusion when I first encountered Azure Information Protection and Cloud App Security. And the one thing to consider about it is Azure Information Protection can have agents put on a local server and defend things there. Cloud App Security can defend data on Google Drive, even outside of your own personal cloud. There we go. Additionally, Microsoft has invested in building advanced security capabilities for data and SQL databases to protect against common threats and simplify information protection management and policy. Microsoft is also currently investing heavily into Internet of Things security to help manage and secure existing brownfield platforms and provide secure greenfield platforms where you can build these secure IoT solutions and help manufacturers quickly determine what level of security they need, enable them to rapidly and easily achieve it. So this is a lot of capabilities to plan for, and a lot of different moving pieces to understand and work with. But through all of the tech talks that we've done over the last year and a half or so, with some great help from Microsoft security architects, we've really covered all of these pieces. And I wanted to take the time to go through this reference architecture to really show the way that everything works together. Matt Sosman and I, we did a great roundtable probably in September of last year, where we talked through this, and we talked through it through the notion of what happens when ransomware comes into a environment, and how does it spread, and how do these things fit specifically to defend against that. The reason why I wanted to take the time to build through this is that there are more threats now. It's not ransomware. It can be hackers that are trying to actually steal your data. I had a call with a potential client last week, and all they wanted was a migration. And I'm talking about security. I have to. Department of Homeland Security, the tech talk that Miguel and I did about the problems that occur if you just migrate from on-prem to the cloud without taking security into account, is if you've got an advanced persistent threat living off the land in your environment and you migrate to Office 365, well, you put him in a box and you moved him too. So it's important to see these things. And with the Bitcoin miners that are coming in as malware now, there's just so many different ways. But this client, as I'm talking to them about security, they say, well, yeah, we had a problem earlier this month or earlier this year, and somebody had gotten into our system and they changed the routing numbers on the invoices that we send to get payment, and we lost like $40,000. And wait, somebody was in your system, in your environment, and knew enough to go in and edit that document so your own employees were sending out emails that allowed them to steal from you? Well, what did you do about this? Well, we changed our passwords. Oh, well, needless to say, they are taking a much more serious look at security now. And really, it comes up in here. Know who is in your system. There are two types of companies in the world: those that have been breached, or those that know that they've been breached, and those, I totally ruined that quote, that just start from a standpoint of an assumed breach. There is something or someone in your system that wants to eat your lunch. With these technologies, a lot of which, if you're a E5 customer, particularly Microsoft 365 E5, you've got this. Go ahead, make sure it's configured, and let's make 2020 a secure year. And that's it. Thank you everybody for joining me for another Agile IT Tech Talk. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording here and open it up for the live Q&A portion. If you are watching on YouTube, give us a like and follow. Check out our blog at agilet.com for a more in-depth write-up. And everybody, welcome to 2020.